Hey guys, so it is Thursday, October 29th, and we are starting Unit 3 today. We took our Unit 2B test yesterday over Rome, and now we are moving into the Byzantine Empire and the rise of the Catholic Church, really. So this is a pretty foundational unit because the Roman Catholic Church is going to be one of the most powerful institutes, um, in world history and especially in regards to European history, and which is what we're fixing to get pretty extensively into. So, understanding how it got its power and how it morphed into what it did is important. And so again, don't kind of just hear all of this and let it go out your brain, because it's going to come back into play. It's just kind of like if you want to do well in your math classes, well, you have to know how to add and subtract and multiply and divide in order to do those equations. Well, you got to kind of know this foundational information to do well in the units to come. So, moving forward, I've told you guys time and time again that any culture, any state, any institution, organization is always going to organize itself. Y'all have seen me do this before. You've seen social pyramids and hierarchy pyramids in every single slide show and unit that I've taught. This is no different. You have to have that organizational piece in order for there to be success in all reality. You can't just have people like running around willy-nilly, not having anyone to either answer to or have, you can't, if you don't have anyone to go to with questions or problems or concerns. Like, there always has to be some form of leadership and delegated power. And the church is no different. I mean, early Christianity is no different. When Jesus dies on the cross, comes back and tells his disciples, okay, look, I told you I would come back. Here I am. Now I need you to go spread the word and, create more Christians. They had to be organized about it if they wanted it to be successful. They couldn't just go into these towns and be like, so here's what I have to say, bye-bye now. They had to leave people there that would continue that work. And that's how you start seeing again that organizational piece to the foundations of the church. So originally there were 4 bishops, okay, kind of like 4 main leaders within the early church, and they were seated in Rome, Alexandria, Jerusalem, and Antioch. Obviously, once Rome as an empire shifts to the east, there becomes a bishop in Constantinople. And honestly, as Christianity spreads, you end up with bishops in other cities too. You end up with a bishop of Milan. Eventually, even way further down the road, you're going to end up with a bishop of London and a bishop of Paris. You're going to end up with all of your major cities having bishops within them. But originally you had your 4 bishops, followed not far by the 5th in Constantinople. Well, if you look at this map, you'll see that the ones in the east are kind of close together. It's not difficult for them to communicate because, again, geographically, they're just closer together, and it's not even as difficult for them to meet in person. And then you have Rome over there kind of all by himself. And you'll also notice that, of course, all the other 4 bishops, the bishops of Constantinople, Antioch, Jerusalem, and Alexandria, are in the Eastern Roman Empire. Well, you should know from the last unit that the Eastern Roman Empire does just fine financially, okay? It's the Western half that falls in 476, okay? So the Eastern half is doing okay, not only financially, but politically, while the West has faltered. And the Bishop of Rome is over there trying to, in a lot of ways, like pick up the pieces of the political fall of Western Rome. And a lot of the Romans that are there begin to look to him for political guidance, and they rely on him more than anybody else. And so, sorry, my son just came in and I wasn't expecting him. Go close my door, please. Sorry, guys. I didn't think he was going to be here, so I started filming. Banks, close the door. All right, sorry, a little momming. But they do. They start to look at the Bishop of Rome as not only their spiritual leader, but their political leader. And so that starts to give him a little bit of an edge as far as power goes against the other four bishops. And he's kind of salty. And I mean, you can't blame him for being so, because he's like, I feel somewhat abandoned over here in Rome. Like here we just kind of got left, by the East to fend for ourselves. And then we got sacked by all of these Germanic tribes. And, I've been over here trying to deal with this chaos politically whilst also spiritually leading the people. And, he starts to take on a little bit different of a role, and a much more centralized role when it comes to power. And he is servicing all of Western Europe. Whereas, again, if you're a Christian in the East, well, you have 4 different bishops sitting right there pretty close to one another. If you're a Christian, again, in Western Europe, your leader is the Bishop of Rome, because he's the one that's closest to you, and that's it. And that also gives the Bishop of Rome a good amount of power. Okay? He also starts to claim more power and says, hey, the Apostle Peter is the one that founded the church here. He's one of Jesus Christ's, of course, greatest disciples, greatest martyrs of Christianity. He's going to go to Rome and, of course, be killed for trying to spread Christianity there. But the other bishops, are not liking any of this. They're like, hey, you can't be saying that you have more power and that you can do all of these things. And then in addition to just kind of that political power struggle, here he is faced with trying to convert all of these pagan Germanic tribes to Christianity. And he's going, all right, how can I sell my one God against their multiple gods? Well, this is where the praying to Mary and kind of the praying to saints and things like that within the Catholic Church is rooted, historically speaking. Okay, I'm not trying to I'm not getting into the theology or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. If you're a Catholic out there going, that is not true, that's not, well, I mean, again, from a historical perspective, it was in a lot of ways, for lack of a better word, like just good marketing to pagans to say, no, you don't just have to pray to God. You can pray to Mary, you can pray to Peter, you can pray to Paul, because God hand chose those people to do his works on earth. And so we know for a fact he's up there with God. So yeah, you can pray to them. And so again, these pagans that are used to having multiple gods and goddesses to pray to, well, it's a little easier of a transition and an easier pill to swallow if, oh, well, I can pray to more than one person then. And this is why, in a lot of ways, even to this day, Catholics have, saints, and, they pray and wear the necklaces and kind of pay tribute to the saints. They pray to Mary. You can honestly even make pilgrimages as a Catholic to certain sites of saints. And again, it helped kind of ease the transition for pagans into Christianity. Well, the bishops in the East, when this starts happening in Rome under the Roman Catholic Church, the Eastern bishops are going, time out, hold the phone. You can't be doing that. That's not what's supposed to happen. God is the only omnipotent one. He's the only one that can hear prayers. Like, no, stop what you're doing. This is idolatry, and we can't be having any of that. It's too pagan. And so, it ends up creating a pretty big split in how they view things. And of course, this is how, I know I'm kind of beating myself to the chase here, but this is how you end up with the first big split in Christianity. And you have the Roman Catholic Church on one side and what becomes known as the Eastern or Greek Orthodox Church on the other side. Okay. So the Bishop of Rome is the Pope, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. And anytime you see the papacy or you see the word papal, that just means the office of the Pope. Okay. The papacy is going to take a big step forward in power when you have Pope Gregory the First. He's going to reign as Pope from 590 to 604. And in that time, not only is he going to rule the city of Rome, but he's going to take over surrounding territories, and he's going to create what becomes known as the Papal States. Okay, so you have to understand, for a long while in history, and the map is behind my head, you have the actual Roman Catholic Church in control of pretty much like their own little kingdom. Like they control territory and control land and run it just like a kingdom. Okay. And that's going to stay the case for a long time. It still is the case. It's just now a lot smaller, and it's known as Vatican City. Vatican City is the smallest city-state in the world, and it operates completely independent still to this day, even though it sits right in the middle of the city of Rome. Okay? The government of Italy has absolutely no jurisdiction in Vatican City. Somebody asked me today in class, well, do they have their own military? Yes, they do. They're called the Swiss Guard. Okay? They're basically just the bodyguards of the Pope. But I mean, still, yeah. So, even to this day, they operate independently from any government. So here is that beautiful hierarchy I told you about. And, you can see the popes at the top, and then you have your mid-management basically with archbishops and bishops. And then your priests and your monks and nuns are your boots on the ground. Okay, this is my ode to monks and nuns day, because guys, without them, there is so much history that we would not know. Okay, your monks and your nuns are some of the most educated people a lot of times in your society, because if you're going to go out and teach scripture, well, you have to be able to read it. So they were literate. Number one, they could read and write, and then they never got married and they never had kids. So, hello, time on your hands a lot of times. And so they would read and educate themselves. They wrote everything down. They translated tons of kind of lost philosophical works from Greece. They translated it from Greek into Latin. A lot of your Arab scholars at the height of the Arab Empire, which we're going to talk about in the next unit, they translated their findings and research and technological advancements from Arabic into Latin. And again, your monasteries, which is where monks and nuns, of course, live, guys, that's the foundational piece of some of your most renowned and oldest universities in Europe. They started out as monasteries because that's where all your archives were. That's where your libraries were, your schools, your hospitals, your shelters for the poor. It was all based out of monasteries. There for a while, even in the dark ages of Europe, you had kings sometimes that were illiterate, that would go to the monasteries to try to learn how to read and write, or to hire a monk so that they would come and write everything down and record the kingdom's history and comings and goings. And so when it says 90% of the ancient Roman works that we have today exist because they were copied by monks, that's not an exaggeration. There is so much history that we would not know if it were not for them. Okay. So this is a great video about, just kind of kind of recapping some stuff we've already talked about, but then getting into, the Bishop of Rome and kind of that split between East and West that we're going to talk about some more later. So I definitely, again, always watch the videos. All right, so I'm going to stop here and I'm going to create a different video for this information, which is what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. And y'all will have a formative assessment tomorrow. This goes really quick. This is a really short, quick unit. You will actually be testing over this information like next Wednesday. So, like I said, quick, short, and sweet. So again, I will see y'all in just a little bit because I'm just going to stop and then turn around and record again. So, see you shortly. There's the first video for this unit.